Today's transformation journey is not merely about improvement. It's about completely rethinking how we run our business and how we re-engineer the house of finance and significantly evolve to meet the business needs of the future. With so many disruptive technologies hitting the scene, the world of finance and accounting have been cracked wide open. Leveraging the cloud, artificial intelligence, automation, digitization, blockchain, and centralizing data are just the surface of working faster and smarter. To discuss these more in detail, welcome Shreyas Kumar. Shreyas is currently working as a member of the board and CFO of Stanley Black & Decker India. He has over 19 years of experience in various roles like Chief Operating Officer, Director of Internal Audit, Plant Manager, etc., and has managed various functions like finance, IT, HR, admin, production, supply chain, customer care operations with organizations like Kreicher, Germany, Rexam, India, GE, Consumer and Industrial Industries, and few more. He has been an active speaker at various professional forums as well as student seminars and has served as a managing committee of few non-profit organizations. Welcome, Shreyas. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Kushal.
Thank you. So just to give our audience a background of what Stanley Black & Decker does, it's one of the largest tools and storage company, the world's second largest commercial electronic security company, and the world's leading provider of engineering fastening systems with unique and powerful growth platforms in oil, gas, and infrastructure industries. With that said, Shreyas, I want to ask you the first question. We loved this version of Stanley Black & Decker that is enabling the future of doers, thinkers, and producers, as you call it. And how do you enable them with the digital tools? Tell us a bit about this version of SFS 2.0 and Industry 4.0.
So, Stanley Black & Decker is a world leader in tools, and also is a world leader in its initiatives to go, and digitization is one of our most important topics for the entire board for the worldwide operations. So we are one of the first adopters of Industry 4.0 globally, to the extent that our plant in Connecticut, where this is run out of the plant is so good that it's probably better than some sovereign governments have set up. So
wow.
It is really an impressive setup, and we have probably about 150 plus people who are running this concept. And the point is to ensure that our industry is completely so well connected. The supply chain talks to the inventory, talks to the machines, they talk to so everything is so connected that it's the efficiency can be brought out to the best possible extent, right, to serve the customer. And the customer will also be so connected to all our businesses in a way that their requirements will be brought to the forefront, and we'll be able to service the requirements of our customers, considering what they need, if they need training or if they need products. So this is the main concept that we are trying to drive, being customer centric and driving everything else around that using digitization.
Wonderful. And I see that you are the visionaries in terms of adopting the Industry 4.0. And I've gone through your website and I see there's a lot of automation, a lot of connected factories around. So my next question was, over the last 19 years, Stanley Black & Decker has delivered 806% TSR, right, total shareholder returns, versus the industry average of 540 and S&P 500 of 224%. Is that possible because you're always thinking one step ahead?
Yes, we are a company which holds more than 13,000 patents.
Wow.
So very innovation focused, to ensure that our customers are serviced with the best possible solution for their problems. So this will help us be more industry focused. We are value driven. We are focused on creating values. So what that also at the end percolates down to is creation of value, and therefore enhancing the shareholders' value
in return. For
in
sure.
return.
Okay. So you perform a variety of roles in the firm, being a director and CFO. being one of the biggest responsibilities. You also manage the IT systems and technology-led transformations, your supply chain, and several other jobs. What's the role that you spend the most time on to maintain the above market growth amongst your competitors?
So for all of us who are a part of the leadership team for Stanley Black & Decker in India especially, India is a very different market. Is a very different beast when compared to the organized markets, because our carpenters, for example, are not schooled in carpentry. Our plumbers are not schooled in plumbing. They are all homegrown. They look at their seniors or they look at people at their homes and they try to learn it and they become professionals. So when we are handling such kind of a market, the approach to such a market also has to be different. We have to be sensitive, and we are a premium brand in terms of quality, in terms of innovation, so we are not the cheapest solution available. But still, to have a successful growth, and while serving a market that is price sensitive, needs to have sensitivity with respect to the customer needs. So this comes to the center of all of us from the India leadership team as well, so that we are always focused on what the end customer needs to get, whether it is quick turnaround of stock, whether it is a different model that needs to be produced in India and not imported, or whether it's a range of products, or whether it's some specific problem that's bothering them. So we try to stay focused around this, and then we try to also enhance our distribution network, because we are a very large country, physically a large country, and supply chain is not the most efficient when we go away from the big cities. So we need to ensure that we pick the right distributor partners, and that they have enough stock, they have the right products to sell. Because if you sell the wrong product, then you have lost the customer forever. Because the moment he realizes that this was not what he should have been given, the trust is gone. So we try to work on all these aspects, and this is what takes time. So this could include developing a new app, which we have. For example, we use an app where the dealer can see how much is outstanding on his phone. He can pick what invoices he wants to pay, and he can pay via the app. So we try to enable the dealers digitally as well, so that, and this is the future, so that even somebody sitting in a remote village in the far east of India can use these things and stay enabled and choose what he wants to do.
Okay, so would it be right for me to say your mantra is think globally but act locally?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my next question to you, Shreyas, is in the year 2019 has been the most difficult for most of the industries. So how do you intend to plan for 2020? What are the key challenges as a CFO that you foresee for the next couple of months?
So 2020 has started with its own new set of challenges with the coronavirus problem. Though we have a large production facility in Pune, at some point of time, some components end up coming from China.
Yes.
So what this ends up meaning is that we have to look at alternatives, of course, because we have factories worldwide. We can look at alternatives, but if I need to find a solution for the next week or for 2 weeks in advance ahead, what that means is that I don't have a solution readily available. So then we have to be mindful of what we can sell, be transparent with the customers of what we can give them, what we cannot give them, and tell them by when we can give them what we can give, and look at all possible solutions that we can.
Absolutely. So I had a sub question to that, which is at Stanley Black & Decker, what I found on your website is you worked on connected factories that currently enabled by new technologies, including the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, most of the companies are learning about the concepts now. You already have factories with this concept of SFS 2.0 already running. So, is there anything that learnings that you would like to tell our audience in terms of having been there, done that? So when you go on an automation journey, what are the challenges that you face?
I think the first biggest challenge to solve is the enterprise level push. If the C-suite does not think that we need this as a complete whole solution to the company, it's not going to happen. And the moment they think it's going to happen and they want to drive it, which is being done in Stanley Black & Decker, it is going to move. And this is what I see happening in our company. We are one of the first adopters of the Industry 4.0. And this is the fourth revolution of the industry, which is where everything is connected, everything talks to each other. We know where the problems are. If we have artificial intelligence running, I mean, we can have factories where there is nobody and somebody sitting and monitoring it from kilometers away.
Right.
And we can even, we have capability of artificial intelligence that will even predict a bot failure. It could be a physical bot, it could be just a software. So our capacity in this range puts us in a very elite, top 5% of the manufacturing capacity in the world. What that means is that we are here already to exploit the possibility of automation, leading to a significant higher growth with efficiencies, where if our competitors and other companies, if they don't scale up to it quickly, they'll miss a big growth possibility. For example, in the first industrial revolutions in the 1900s, the CAGR growth was about 3%, 4%. But currently, so far, in the industry 4.0, what we see is the CAGR growth is only about 0.1%. This is because those who have said to be a point of industry 4.0 are still piloting. Are still trying different concepts. They haven't started full-scale manufacturing using these things. That's why you don't see the benefit. And people say that, statistics say that even a 2% growth in CAGR means about $3-4 trillion of growth in terms of actual money. So this is a big market to play in. There's big opportunity for any player in this market, and I think we are one of the few companies who are already in this space and who are leveraged to exploit the situation.
I think the classic example is Nokia, right? So if you don't evolve with the rising trends, you immediately diminish, and someone else will take over, or your competitor will take over.
Right.
So you just spoke about CAGR, and I have some facts in front of me. For the last 5 years, your CAGR has been 8%, and that shows in terms of how well you have already paced yourself against the market. We have also seen a 5% average organic growth, and when you're talking about these numbers, I always want to reflect back on the promise that the government has made in terms of the trillion economy. So, do you think there is ease of business doing today compared to before? And my second question to that is, what other steps can the government take in building a $5 trillion economy?
So, is there ease of doing business today? I think there is, significantly better than what it used to be. Getting approvals or new initiatives like the one that says that if I have a new company, it is taxed at a much lower rate rather than at a much higher rate. So this attracts people to come and invest, build new and increase capabilities. So the Make in India is going in the right way that way. And concepts like Make in India also ensures that the state governments, the local authorities are also pushed to facilitate that. Ease of doing business in the intent has gone completely in the right way, whether it is the GST initiative. But has there been enough homework done, or can it be done a little more better, that we don't have too many loose ends left? Of course, we do have a lot of loose ends left, and we could have done a little more better. We are learning and we are changing, we are evolving, but there's also, that means it ends up with a lot of challenges for companies like us, because we are large, we have very, very highly invested softwares, ERPs, bots that are designed to do something, we change it to do something else, and then tomorrow again that's changed. So to again adapt, make it do something else is going to be challenging and time consuming. And if the resources are not at my behest, let's say locally located, let's say if it's in the US, and they are going from tomorrow to work on a plant which is being set up in Poland, for example, then they're not going to be available for me if there's a new change in GST next week.
Correct.
So these are the small things that are not well thought through and can think through. We need all ends tied up to the max extent possible. There is no perfect solution that's possible.
But that is, the government has somehow initiated certain things. But yeah, for a country of our population, there will be some challenges. And I think we are getting there slowly but surely.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, currently, I think we are in a hurry to bring in a lot of changes for whatever reason. A lot of representations are being made by the industry from various forums, by tax specialists, by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So these are all giving feedbacks, and things are improving. But we should look at launching a more wholesome solution whenever we launch it.
Right. Okay. We touched upon this, but I want some more clarity in terms of what are the measures that the government can take to build the confidence among Indian incorporated companies.
So specifically for Indian incorporated companies, including, I mean, does this also include foreign investments companies?
FDI as well, yes.
Yeah, so if we have to include, one is of course the transparency is increasing, but like was being discussed in a different topic today, we are still not on the right side of the corruption index. So we still have, like, I'm an American company, an American subsidiary, and that means I have to screen all my customers
Yes.
for corrupt practices.
Yes.
So
FCPA.
correct, FCPA screening has to be done for all of my customers, and I have more than 600 distributors today.
Yeah.
And to screen everyone is going to be tough, because some of the customers I might have absolutely no information at all. To avoid this, we need to get on the right side of the corruption index, which we are still not on. So there are going to be challenges, but I think it is currently with a new tax regime as well for corporates, it is very attractive to currently set up in India. Taxation has become much more transparent. It will become much more easy. It will become a lot more automated. I think the government is working a lot on moving things electronically rather than physical.
Right.
So with the e-invoicing now, you don't need to have a physical invoice.
Invoice coming.
And the information of all your invoicing is available to the government. So the input tax credit, the output tax credit, everything is automatically available.
Yes.
They don't need to now depend upon our returns, whether it is faulty, whether it has mistakes. So everything is automatic. So this is all in the right direction, and I think it will support further growth of companies being incorporated in India, whether it is a startup or whether it's a well-established multinational.
Wow. With that optimistic thought, Shreyas, really pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. You have been a precocious leader. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with our audience. Thank you.
My pleasure.